In July of 2013, as the sun rose above the horizon atop Kilimanjaro, some 19,000 feet above the world, Lyle proposed to me. The conditions of our engagement were truly unique and personally meaningful. We love being outdoors and in the wilderness. Our journeys have led us to many remote and beautiful places. And so, when it came to planning our wedding, we knew it had to be an unconventional, non-traditional adventure that speaks to whom we are as individuals and as a couple. Shortly after our return from Africa, news of the world's largest cave began surfacing. A cave deep in the jungles of Phong Nha, Vietnam, my motherland. Hang Son Doong, we've found our location.
Do I have to say wait? Okay, so we're at the Oxalis homestay right now. We're packing day packs. I had initially planned on wearing shorts for the first and the last days, and we just found out that there are lots and lots of leeches. Then bow ties, Lyle's,
I'm blue.
Grant's, Gaboos, Gabees.
No,
No, this is Gajee's,
Somebody's. And
Gadoong's, and Jess.
So we have to finish packing. We're heading out tomorrow morning.
No, dinner and briefing. And I feel like I'm bringing too much.
Yeah, we all are, I
have
think.
a fleece jacket, I have my down, I have my gaiters and my rain jacket.
And do we want to explain the main purpose of all this?
So,
Is it the cave?
the cave.
There goes your tea.
The cheerleaders of the cave. They're getting married! Finally.
Yeah, finally.
After, what, it's been 3 years since the engagement. 2013, you guys climbed Kilimanjaro. And now they're finally getting married in a cave.
The morning of day one, we all gathered outside the Oxalis homestay, ready for the journey to begin. Giddy with excitement, we admired each other's choice of clothing. Jeff sported the most colorful shoes, and Nini had the fanciest socks. We watched as the expedition team made final preparations and loaded the van with all the essentials we would need for our 5-day trip. We also met our porters for the first time. Throughout the trip, they would work so efficiently to make our camp each night feel like home. We jumped into a long van to begin our drive into Phong Nha Ket Bang National Preserve.
Okay, we're on a bridge in the national park.
We stopped on this bridge for our first glimpse of the Son Doong River that's responsible for carving out Son Doong Cave. We lined up for a picture, and the curious locals who happened to be on the bridge at the same time decided they wanted to be part of our group. This river would become our constant companion for the duration of our expedition.
There goes Nini. Have you calmed down yet?
Luckily, it had rained the day before and not at all during our whole trip. However, that meant that the trail was muddy and sticky and yet super slippery at the same time. We crossed paths with a few members of the previous Son Doong expedition, and they were miserable. They experienced rain most of their trek. I can't imagine how uncomfortable it must have been for them.
2 of them?
Not bad.
Go through, but yeah, we had a really compressed air.
Wow! And then, voila! Yes,
Good
I
job.
graduated to 2nd grade.
For lunch, we stopped at the only minority village allowed in the National Preserve. The village was also the perfect place to tend to all of our injuries before going further into the jungle, where we would be encountering some difficult terrain. I slipped and I fell down and I used my left hand to brace myself right on the stem of a palm tree that was already thorny and dead on the muddy path.
And did you have gloves on at the time?
No gloves. This was the first of many surprisingly good meals during our trek through Son Doong. The kids were curious about Crevet, Lyle's drone, and so he attracted a crowd during his drone flight. We crossed the river over 30 times that first day. The current was sometimes swift and strong, prompting the safety assistants to form a line to help us cross. The deepest sections only brushed up against my bottom. The quick-dry, water-resistant pants we bought from Oxalis were so good at repelling water that we dried almost instantly. We began referring to them as magic pants. We saw the opening to Hang Ang as we approached it. We recognized just how enormous it really was. We excitedly gathered at the mouth of Hang Ang. Finally, we were about to enter a cave. Once we entered, helmets and headlamps were mandatory for our own safety.
We made it to the entrance of the first cave, which is
Hang Ang.
Oops. Anyways, so this is our first cave. I think we go in a little bit more to the first campsite. Putting on the helmets, getting our lighting. Lyle's actually not here because he was following us with the drone. So far, no injuries. Oh, one sprained ankle and 5 thorns in the finger. But other than that, we're here. We made it! Yay! So we reached our first campsite. It's called Hang Ang. Our tour guide told us that from the top of the cave to where our campsite is actually 100 meters. Whenever it floods, I guess last season it flooded up to 80 meters high. Right down there where the rock is. Goji's down there if you can see. But this is where we're staying for our first night.
Looking down at camp for the first time, I was a little confused. There were so many tents. Then it dawned on me. There was a total of 32 Oxalis employees accompanying us on this trek to ensure our safety, comfort, and success. Annetta was our expedition leader. This was the first trip for her in this new leadership position. She might be small in stature, but she was gritty, wiry, and quick with a quip or a retort against all the male safety assistants and porters who were teasing her. Supported by Deb and John, senior experienced cavers, Annetta did an outstanding job leading our expedition. After a delicious dinner, there was plenty of time for fun. Nini quickly fell in with the safety crew and learned a few new card tricks, all the while practicing her Vietnamese. Alexis and I discovered we were nicknamed twins. Both of our names meant little. Thus arose the Honky and Bitsy show, which prompted us to master the art of light riding. As darkness descended, we all happily turned in for the first night, but only after beholding the stars twinkling beyond the mouth of the cave. We awoke to the soft morning light streaming in through the mouth of the cave. After a surprisingly appetizing breakfast of pho, pancakes, French toast, and fresh fruits, we had a little extra time before heading out, so a quick morning yoga session in front of the lake to waken up the senses and stretch the muscles seemed perfect. Hang An means swallow cave, and swallows build nests high up along the walls of this cave. Locals expertly scale the walls to collect these eggs. Our first view of the day was looking back at last night's campsite from the back of Hang An. What a gorgeous view. We didn't find out until later that Grant was flat on his stomach, not because he was trying to get the perfect composition for his photo. No, it was because he is afraid of heights. This is the first giant cavern we encountered, a perfect place to test the lighting equipment carried by our porters. At one point, we all turned off our headlamps. Complete and utter darkness generated an eerie feeling of spatial disarray. Our first water crossing of the day was right before the final climb up to the back entrance of Hang An, where we would exit the cave. We just couldn't escape this river.
This is morning of day 2. We're at the exit of Hang An Cave. We'll be walking through the jungle for a couple of kilometers and finally get to go into Son Doong Cave.
Lyle was constantly trying to get this unruly bunch to walk in a nice organized line. Every once in a while, it worked. We exited Hang An and slowly made our way through another stretch of muddy jungle to the opening of Son Doong Cave. Every year, the trail has to be rebuilt after the rain comes and washes away the small bridges and paths that guide hikers along the river. As we trudged through the thick jungle, we were educated about leeches. Not long after the lesson, Grant picked up an unwanted hitchhiker. It had only just attached itself to his hand, so Annetta easily plucked it off. But to extricate a leech that has lodged itself tightly, you'd have to use a small flaying. For such an enormous cave, the entrance to Son Doong is quite small and hidden in the thick of the jungle. No wonder it was only recently discovered in 1991 by a local man named Kan Ho.
So we made it to the entrance of Son Doong Cave.
After lunch, we put on our harnesses for the slippery descent into the cave.
Are your shoes tight?
Son Doong is currently the world's largest cave. The cave runs for approximately 5.6 miles. The cave's largest passage is over 660 feet high, 490 feet wide, and over 3.1 miles long. It's twice as large as the next biggest cave passage, which is in Malaysia. After descending 120 feet into the cave, we finally reached the bottom. The noise of the rushing river echoed throughout the cave. The water level at this time of year was too high and too swift, eliminating the prospect of wading through the river to get to the other side. Instead, 2 bridges have been built for safer passage. Bats whooped through the air, straight into the beams of light provided by our headlamps, delighted by the swarming buffet of bugs. This cavern, called Hope and Vision, is filled with 2 enormous stalagmites. The closest cluster is called Hope and Vision, and is the tallest stalagmite in the whole world. Light from the first Doline created the silhouette of this incredible stalagmite formation known as Hand of Dog, which, if seen from the right angle, resembles a dog's paw. Camp number 2, perched on a cliff looking out to Doline 1, was my favorite campsite. As we arrived, smoke from the barbecue filtered into the air, catching bits of light here and there, as if perfectly staged. Aware that the conservation guidelines would prohibit me from picking plants inside the cave, I collected a few strings of line just outside the cave. Alexis expertly employed her extraordinary weaving skills to turn an element of our expedition into a crucial part of our wedding ceremony, our truly unique, handcrafted wedding rings. Day 3 began bright and early with a side adventure to an underground swimming pool. In the light of our headlamps, white fossils dating back 3.5 million years glimmered amongst the dark stones of the narrow tunnel as we approached the swimming pool.
This morning's special edition! Bridal shower!
The cold made Alexis a little delirious, so she started splashing me. Thus, I was given a literal bridal shower that morning. The swim was truly refreshing. Back at camp, a delicious breakfast spread was waiting for us, and we couldn't pass up another quick yoga session in the gleaming morning light of Doline 1. Finally, we headed out on what would be the strangest wedding day we could have imagined. Instead of hiking straight into Doline 1, we took a detour down into the darkness to admire a perfect circle naturally cut into the rock wall. It made for some perfect pre-wedding photos. The route to the first Doline was a fun one that required us to climb steep rocky surfaces, to squeeze through narrow passages, and to pull ourselves up with the help of ropes and ladders. We climbed out of the darkness and were soon bathed in intense light coming in from Doline 1, otherwise known as Watch Out for Dinosaurs. None of the pictures we had seen online could compare to standing underneath this gigantic window into the sky. The ground that was exposed to the light was alive with rich green foliage, completely out of place in an underground environment. This had to be the most surreal location within Son Doong so far, and it was only going to get better. We've come to the first Doline. Lyle's initial idea was to hold the wedding at the very top of the main feature within Doline 1, an enormous spiral stalagmite with a flat surface, which is now nicknamed the wedding cake. However, at this time of year, it was out of the question. The top of the stalagmite was a pool of water formed from the constant stream of water falling onto it from the edge of the Doline. John suggested having the ceremony on the mound inside the cave, with the Doline as the backdrop instead, and that was a perfect suggestion. We had all packed in our nice outfits and changed in the dark, and Vu walked me up the mound where Nini, having been ordained online, was waiting to preside over her first wedding.
Thank you, family and friends, for joining us at Doline 1 for the joining of Lyle and Thu Buu in KV matrimony. The bride and groom want to take their time to thank their friends and family who could not be here with them, but who are giving their love, support, and understanding. They are here with us in our hearts. If anybody has any objections, speak now or forever lay it at Son Doong Cave.
Jeff? No?
Good.
Lyle? So, you two have been together for nearly 10 years and engaged for 3 years, and we are finally here. Mom, I remember when you first signed up on the account and we were looking through different people together. I had something wrong with every person, and this went on for like 2 hours until we got to Lyle, and I was tired of hearing you say there's something wrong. No dog, no smoking, no gambling, no beard. He had to be the one. And Lyle, I remember when we would sit driving up for either family camping or Thanksgiving without my mom for some reason, and we would talk about how you would propose to her in the car. So imagine how happy I was when you guys finally sent me that staged photo on the summit of Kilimanjaro. Now, do we have the rings?
Sure do.
On shoot, ready?
On shoot.
One, two, three. 1, 2, 3.
Does that mean I go first?
No, you get to choose. Would you like to sing to her first?
Yes, I'll put yours on first.
Okay. Lyle, Max, Dutch. Do you take Thu Buu in sickness and in health, for richer or for poorer, for better or for worse, for as long as your kindred spirits are still kindred?
I do. That's Star Wars music. You can't sing.
Okay. Please take your hand. Left. Okay. Choose Thu. Do you take Lyle, Max, Dutch in sickness and in health, for richer or for poorer, for better or for worse, for as long as the moon and sun shall endure? Yes, I do. Yes, you can put the ring on.
Thank you. You are beautiful.
At this time, the bride and groom has given me a haiku that they've written together to share with everyone. 1 cave, 1 wedding, 2 paths, never ending, and 1 destination. The haiku is in lieu of their vows. Now, by the powers vested in me by the Universal Life Church and the state of California, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may now kiss the bride.
Finally!
You have been family for a long time, but now it's officially.
Not yet. We still don't have the marriage license yet.
Almost
Walk down the aisle through the rain.
Yes, walk through the rain. Which way? Which side am I supposed to be? There you go. You got it.
For such little preparation, the wedding proceeded so smoothly and was such a relaxed and joyous event Neither Lyle nor I had really imagined what a perfect wedding would look like, but for us, this was it. Small, simple, short, and stressless. And best of all, we didn't have to say anything but yes.
Wait.
We had accomplished something no one in the world had done yet. We were the first couple to get married in the world's largest cave. A special picnic lunch complete with a delicious thick chocolate cake, champagne, and torches made from bundling up dozens of candles was an unexpected delight. That morning, one of the porters had trekked all the way out of the jungle to retrieve the cake and carried it back to this location in one piece before we even arrived.
I'm about to toss my bouquet to the porters and Mimi and Annetta.
During the bouquet toss, Annetta elbowed another porter out of the way to catch the bouquet. The other porter kept complaining about the incident because Annetta had no plans on getting married any time in the next 5 years, whereas he was hoping to find a girlfriend soon. To poke fun at him even further, Annetta stuck the bouquet on her helmet for the rest of the day. We quickly got out of our wedding attire and continued our trek toward Doline 2. The slow, winding climb into the opening gave us time to take in the natural beauty surrounding us. We've just arrived at Doline 2, and this is the Garden of Eden. The jungle floor here was thick with vegetation, 150 feet into the mist hovering above. The opening was lined with fern and greens cascading over the lip. Standing in this micro-jungle felt like we had been transplanted into some magical fantasy world. Perhaps we were awash in beauty and magic because our hearts were so full of happiness. Day 3 was the longest day. Once we arrived at camp, we rushed back into our damp swimming clothes from that morning for the final trek through another enormous cavern punctuated with giant stalactites and stalagmites all the way to the end of the cave. There was one imposing formation which looked like a scary monster and a delicious melting ice cream at the same time. Thousands of cave pearls of varying shapes and sizes created naturally beautiful abstract art on the cave floor. In January and February, the section leading up to the Wall of Ignam is still covered in water, turning it into a beautiful lake. We got into flimsy plastic rowboats, 2 per boat, and pleasantly rowed the length of the lake to the end of the cave and back. Any other month, this section would be a dreadful trek in mud and muck without the prospect of cleaning yourself off until the following day when you're back out in the jungle. When Nini and I brought our boat back to the landing spot, we noticed the safety assistants swimming and bathing in the lake, so we followed suit. And so did the rest of the Lollipop gang. That would be our second swim of the day. That nice campsite located on a wide sandy ledge at the edge of Doline 2 was quite exquisite. But we had had such a long and tiring day, we didn't have much time or energy to enjoy its beauty. After a hearty dinner, we all retired to our tents and quickly fell asleep. Day 4, we retraced our trek from the camp at Doline 2 all the way back to Han An. Even though we were retracing our steps, it seemed like a whole new place. Fortunately, the sun made her appearance that morning, and her soft beams of light created different sensations at each of the dolines. At Doline 1, with the sunlight streaming into the cave, we noticed with more definition the undulating curves of the gowers and the different hues of emerald, teal, and turquoise the water in the gowers projected. The still water in the gowers created impressive reflection pools, and once again, we were reminded of how lucky we were that the winds were soft enough the last couple of days to leave the water's surface undisturbed, gleaming like mirrors. A doline occurs when a section of the ceiling collapses. The resulting hole allows sunlight to enter, creating life in the most unexpected places, like caves. Son Doong Cave has 2 dolines, each nourishing their own living jungle, complete with their own weather systems, abundant vegetation, and trees as tall as 3-story buildings. To me, these dolines are the most spectacular spots in the whole entire cave. Doline 2 has an unusual name, the Garden of Eden. This name came about as a jest by the British Vietnamese cave explorers poking fun at members of the British cavers who explored Deer Cave in Malaysia, which at the time was the biggest in the world. They had named the exit of Deer Cave the Garden of Eden, so the Son Doong expedition team jokingly named Doline 2 the Garden of Eden. And it stuck. British humor, what can you say? Leaving the Doline behind, we headed back into the darkness. This dark underground cavern is home to blind fish, albino roly-polies, wood lice, and spinally long-legged centipedes. All of them share similar characteristics of living in a world without light. They all have no eyes and no pigmentation. We had to keep reminding ourselves to stop and look around at the details as we were hiking. The dirt-green water created some interesting textures and formations that were very easy to miss if we weren't paying attention. Following our guides, we arrived at the base of the entrance. Since the safety team needed to check the lines, we had a little time to sit back and relax. Not for long, though. Soon, it was time to put on our harnesses and make our way up and out of the world's largest cave. There was plenty of space between each person, so as we slowly made our way to the top, we were able to stop and take a last look around at all the stunning formations around us, and send out a whisper of gratitude for the opportunity to have walked and slept within one of Earth's most unique natural wonders. Once outside with the helmets and harnesses put away, Lyle flew the drone straight overhead for a bird's eye view of the area. We really were in the thick of the jungle. From this perspective, Son Doong truly is a hidden gem. And then we continued walking through the jungle, making our way towards the grand back entrance of Hang An. And with one last river crossing for the day, we arrived at our last campsite of our journey, which was also our first campsite. Our last night in the cave was spent on the sandy shores of Hang An's turquoise lake. Some of us took this opportunity to indulge in one last swim in the caves. Day 5 was the last day of our trek. We had a leisurely morning goofing around, and as usual, we indulged in the delicious breakfast spread. Before the trip, we hadn't really thought much about food, but we never expected to be fed fresh veggies and home-cooked quality meals while inside a cave. Another impressive aspect of camp life was the compostable toilets. Just a ladle of rice husks effectively masks all unpleasant smells. This morning, we even had time to fly the drone inside the cave and to take a group picture. We wanted everyone in the shot, but the porters and the cooks were way too shy. From the aerial view provided by Crevitt, we really were in the middle of a jungle with miles and miles of undiscovered territory all around us. There might be another cave even larger and more impressive than Son Doong hidden somewhere under all these mountain ranges. After breakfast, we exited Hang An and followed a newly cut route through the jungle to rendezvous with the driver. This path had less water crossings than the one on the way in. Prior to the trip, we thought long and hard about what type of footwear to bring. Crossing rivers, walking through mud, stepping on sand, and climbing boulders, these were some of the different terrains our shoes would have to contend with. But when we saw our support team for the first time, we noticed right away their simple rubber sandals with ankle straps. By the time we got to the rendezvous point, stripped off our wet shoes and socks, everyone discovered a few hitchhikers. Some had made the most squiggly friends, but Lyle's leeches broke skin. These bites would continue to bleed for the next 3 days. From the jungle, we were driven to Jalap Farmstay, a beautiful resort with hot showers and a pool. We would have loved to spend a few more days here, if only we had more time. What an incredibly fun and spectacular journey this adventure proved to be. We were so lucky that the weather was amicable. The guides were knowledgeable, flexible, and cooperative, and the wedding proceeded smoothly.